Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another Mad Meta Magic, where we try to make the magic meta mad. Now, today, I have a list submitted to me by Dave, aka Tarek101, and it's a Blue Tron list. So, Tarek usually requests these. Ever since the one Blue Tron list that he claims gave me PTSD because of how weirdly constructed it was. Anyway, I'm gonna oblige him because he used the deck submission redemption on Twitch, which is something that you can currently do until I get a better system in place. So, a few notes. This has been updated with some Strixhaven cards. We have Divide by Zero as the card added from Strixhaven, which is a 3-mana return target spell or permanent with mana value 1 or greater to its owner's hand and learn. I think this card is actually better than a lot of people might think it is. I don't know how good it is necessarily, but this card is basically Repeal plus Remand in a single card. And for those of you that go, but Kano doesn't draw a card. Yeah, it does. The Lesson Learn effectively gives you a card draw. Although it will always be the same card and it will always be from your sideboard, we are getting an introduction to Annihilation from out of the sideboard, something we can cast because we are a Tron deck. It is a 5-mana sorcery. It lets us exile any non-land permanent, and the controller of said permanent draws a card. So that is the interesting Strixhaven edition. Other than that, we are maxed out on 2-mana interaction with Repeal, Condescend, and Remand. We do have a Cyclonic Rift as well. We are playing a relatively threat-dense list. The only concern that I have with this list is that Treasure Mage, while it is a good tutor, only can grab 3 cards in this list, which is Wurmcoil, Meteor Golem, and Sundering Titan. Meteor Golem, a little bit non-standard, but a 7-mana destroy target non-land permanent and plus a body is probably not that bad. We do have Thought-Knot Seers, which means we are running 1 Eldrazi Temple on the off chance we need to map that up. Thought-Knot Seer is an excellent threat in Blue Tron because the Thoughtseize effect plus all of your disruption can actually just win you the game. And of course, our threat of choice is Karn Great Creator. A little bit sad to not see that 4 of these, but I think 3 is fine. Generally, I think you should be maxing out on this card. And for top-end Planeswalker threat, we have Ugin the Spirit Dragon. Not too much else worthy of note over a regular Blue Tron list. We do have Prismatic Vista and a Singleton Wastes as a way to get an additional, or to actually get a colorless mana source in the event of a Blood Moon. We do have sort of a Tolaria West wish board in the main deck with the Walking Ballista, Chalice of the Void, Engineered Explosives, Tormod, Crypt, and or any land in the deck. A lot of Blue Tron lists generally play 25 or 26 lands. This one's down to 24. I think that's fine. You don't have as much consistency as Blue Tron as you do in Green Tron with things like Ancient Stirrings and Sylvan Scrying, so you generally need to play more lands to make sure you hit your land drops. Big difference between Blue Tron and Green Tron is that Blue Tron is more of a tempo deck than a big mana deck. It's sort of you delay the game until you assemble Tron, then you win the game. Instead of trying to assemble Tron as quickly as possible, proactively play a threat before your opponent can respond and win the game, that Green Tron does. And you sort of need to play into that. You can't always just keep Mind Tower power and threat. It doesn't always work, although that is generally one of the better draws of Blue Tron. You generally don't assemble Tron until a minimum of turn 4 because you want to play an island on turn 2 to give yourself access to Remand, Condescend, Repeal, etc. You can also play the sort of proactive game plan of land, Talisman, land to get to your 4-mana threats, because Blue Tron generally plays the cheaper Tron threats so that they're easier to protect with their disruption. So for sideboard, we've maxed out on Dismember's Aether Gust and Spatial Contortions, basically because we're expecting a lot of prowess in this current metagame. Smaller than usual Wishboard, although I do like the choices for the Wishboard this time. We have Trinisphere, Relic, Liquimetal Coating, Wurmcoil, Ensnaring Bridge, Walking Ballista, Pithing Needle, Chalice. No Sundering Titan, because we're main decking Sundering Titan. And the only other card that I could see really being added here would be Sky Sovereign, but I think with all of the other cards and the lesson that we're playing, it's not entirely necessary. And I think as far as a deck tech goes, that's probably good. So I'll see you guys in round 1. Alright, round 1, we have a fairly decent hand. No blue mana until turn 3. I am going to keep this because we do have 2/3 of Tron. If we top deck the 3rd Tron piece, we'll have a lot of mana very quickly. And it looks like we're against burn. So when it plays Goblin Guide, attacks, revealing Cyclonic Rift. So they know we're on blue Tron. We'll play Tower, play Talisman, pass the turn. If I need to, I can actually Condescend X0 just to get a Scry, which might be worth it depending on what my opponent does this turn. So opponent goes to combat, attacks, reveals an Ugin the Spirit Dragon. Well, I'm not a huge fan of drawing Ugin with this current hand, so I'm actually going to Condescend X0. Which is effectively 1 mana, instant, lose 1 life, scry 2. And this is nice because Goblin Guide kind of let us know it was up here. Now I could draw Island and save myself a life if I have to cast Remand, but I think I would rather dump it and try and find mine. Because if we can get Wurmcoil Engine down, that'd be fantastic. And we get bolted. Alright, untap. We draw Condescend again. Play Power Plant, pass the turn. Now the issue here is we only have 1 blue mana, and it costs us life. Now I could have put that island on top of my deck, but I did not. Opponent gonna play Swift Spear. Sure. They go to combat. Attack for 3. I may have needed to Condescend that Monastery Swift Spear, but I'm glad I did not. Because now I can protect my Wurmcoil Engine. We untap, we draw Chalice. Players is mine. Play Wurmcoil Engine. And I could throw down Chalice on one, and then Cyclonic Rift the Monastery Swift Spear. I think playing Chalice on one is correct here. It's just whether or not I want to use this mana or not. The only concern is that they have like double Boros Charm, and they just like Boros Charm, untap Boros Charm. So maybe keeping Condescend up was better. I'm going to go ahead and pay 1 life to bounce the Swift Spear because it would do 1 damage to me anyway. There comes the Boros Charm, or the Lightning Helix. It's Boros Charm. So if they have Searing Blaze, that's the only card that this line plays into. If they have Lightning Helix or Boros Charm again, then we're just dead. Skullcrack. Alright, opponent was main decking a Skullcrack, which means the Wurmcoil Engine probably wouldn't have saved us anyway. So, versus Burn, I'm going to bring in 2 Spatial Contortion and an Aether Gust, and I'm going to drop 3 Remand. I think that is our worst spell here. I even think Divide by 0 is technically better. Is it? Yeah, because it can hit stuff on board. Actually, I'm going to bring in the other Chalice of the Void as well, and I'm going to cut Tormod's Crypt, because Tormod's Crypt doesn't do anything here. And we'll try it like this. We will play first. Double Power Plant, but we are holding Chalice. So I'm going to keep this hand. Chalice on 1 is generally too good to pass up versus Burn, and we do have a Condescend to protect it. So lead on Power Plant, pass the turn. Now they could have a Smash to Smithereens, and if they do, it's going to be a little bit unfortunate, but there's not a lot I can do about that unless I wait till turn 4, which is way too late to be playing a Chalice versus Burn. So opponent plays Goblin Guide, reveals that we are drawing Thirst for Knowledge. Play an island, let's play Chalice on 1, pass the turn. If my opponent is stuck on 1 mana, Chalice on 1 is going to be excellent. They are not, and they have an Eidolon. Okay, so they attack us for 2, we reveal Mine. Untap, we draw Ugin. Play Mine, pass the turn. We'll Condescend if there's anything supremely dangerous, but odds are we're going to cast Thirst for Knowledge this turn because we really want to hit a tower and play Ugin. If we do, we basically win the game outright. Opponent attacks with Goblin Guide, reveals an Urza's Mine. We take 4 and go to 12. Opponent skewers the critics, taking damage off their own spell, and skewers the critics. So they're going to take us to 6. We thirst, we're going to go to 4. And if we don't hit tower, we're in trouble. I can't Condescend in such a way... Condescend actually only saves me 1 life, so it's probably not worth it. I'm going to go ahead and Thirst for Knowledge here. That's bad. So we are going to discard Meteor Golem. This was pretty much the worst. So we go on to 4, and we're going to be dead to a lot of stuff. We did not hit tower, we hit every other Tron land under the sun. So the only thing I can cast this turn that doesn't kill me is nothing. So we're just going to be dead to burn then. That's unfortunate. Alrighty, I'll see you guys in round 2. Alright, we'll be on the play for round 2. This is not a keepable hand with just one land. This hand is fine. It could be worse. It could be a lot better. I really wish we had a Thought-Knot Seer, but I'm going to put back Meteor Golem. And I'm going to lead on Island, pass the turn. Opponent untaps, plays a Forest, and a Birds. Alright, we untap, draw Condescend. So, play Blast Zone, pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They're going to Ancient Stirrings. Well, we can't Condescend that. Karplusan Forest. So this looks like red-green Eldrazi, with maybe a budget consideration for the Noble Hierarch. Hex Drinker. Okay. They're going to level up the Hex Drinker. Sure. I mean, if I have to crack Blast Zone to kill my opponent's creatures, that's fine. I'm trying to think of what deck my opponent could possibly be on. We'll play Gemstone Caverns, pass the turn. If they spend their turn leveling up Hex Drinker, we'll just divide by 0, which is a fun thing to say. Opponent untaps, plays Grove of the Burn Willows. 4 mana for a Thought-Knot Seer. So, let's go ahead and Condescend. Power Plant and another Condescend. I don't really want either of these cards, I don't think. So opponent goes to combat, attacks us for 2, we take 2, go down to 18, we untap and draw Treasure Mage, play Eldrazi Temple, and we can either run out Karn, or we can keep Divide by 0 in hand and use that. I think I'm keeping up Divide by 0 / activate Blast Zone. Now I could activate Blast Zone on my opponent's upkeep, which would stop them from playing Reality Smasher this turn if they've got it. But if they have land, they could play another Thought-Knot. I think we wait, because we can always crack Blast Zone on our turn if we have to. They're leveling up Hex Drinker. Okay, now we activate Blast Zone. Cool. So we untap. We draw Condescend. Probably should have kept that Power Plant, but we'll pass. Leave up Condescend and Divide by 0. We're prioritizing the use of Condescend because I do need another land. I think putting that Power Plant to the bottom was erroneous. Opponent plays an Eldrazi Obligator. So let's go ahead and Condescend. Talisman of Dominance to the bottom. We'll put Urza's Mine on top. Untap. We draw Urza's Mine. Play Urza's Mine. Play Karn. Now my opponent probably has Lightning Bolts. I still think we probably end up wishing for Coating here. I could get Ensnaring Bridge. That wouldn't be bad. But if we draw a land, we can Coating and then protect it with Divide by 0. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. Plays an Eldrazi Temple. 5 mana. Here comes Reality Smasher. Yeah. We were trying to avoid that, but this is going to take out Karn. We untap. Draw Condescend. Pass the turn. We'll leave up Condescend / Divide by 0. Once again, we're going to have to prioritize Condescend, I think. We have enough life total that I don't have to worry about getting hit once by this Reality Smasher. Opponent is going to play Garruk Unleashed. Wow, that's pretty cool, actually. I am going to Condescend this, because that's one of the few cards that Condescend will now hit that my opponent has played Cavern. Chalice of Void to the bottom, Power Plant to the top. Pass the turn. So we're going to take a hit here. So next turn, I can put Liquimetal Coating onto the battlefield, and then leave up Divide by 0, or I could play Treasure Mage. We untap and draw Power Plant. Play Liquimetal Coating. Pass the turn. I will probably fog this Reality Smasher unless my opponent pre-combat plays something even scarier. While this is annoying, I still think we Divide by 0 to hit Reality Smasher. Divide by 0, going to do a bit of work here. We're going to discard Treasure Mage, get Introduction to Annihilation, which will draw our opponent a card, but hopefully we draw a land and can hit Wurmcoil Engine. Okay, that is not the case. So what do we do here? We can Introduction to Annihilation Garruk, because Garruk is going to be a huge problem very shortly. We can't we have no counter spells, but even if we did, we couldn't counter a Reality Smasher. We're going to be taking at least 5 damage next turn. Pass the turn. Interesting tech choice here. Like, the ult is really scary in an Eldrazi deck. Because it's like just tutor up Reality Smashers until your opponent dies. Okay, they get an Eldrazi Obligator. That's actually a huge issue because of the steal effect that it gives them. Because they can just steal Wurmcoil Engine and then attack with it, and then what do we do, you know? So they hit us for 5, we go to 8, we untap, we draw Thirst for Knowledge. So I think I got a main phase Thirst for Knowledge. We are going to discard an artifact, which is Walking Ballista, play Tower, play Thought-Knot Seer. Opponent is going to bolt our face, which means we have to block with Thought-Knot Seer this turn. We have to take the Obligator from them, though. They have Mizzium Mortars? And 2 Obligators? Oh. Any other 3 cards, and that wouldn't matter. I can take Mortars, but then they just obligate and steal Thought-Knot. That's pretty good. Alright, Dismember's coming in. I don't know if we need Spatial Contortion. Aether Gust, a lot of their cards, despite being red or green, aren't actually red or green. So we're going to drop Tormod's Crypt. Chalice is out. And I think we cut 1 Divide by 0. It was pretty decent in that match there. Which is kind of surprising to me. But unfortunately, it just wasn't enough. Alright, we're on the play for game 2 with Natural Tron plus Island. I'm going to keep this because we can actually do quite a lot with this hand. So we're going to lead with representing Dismember. We're probably not going to play Talisman until turn 3. Opponent starts Grove into Hex Drinker. I'm going to go ahead and Dismember that now. We should be able to Condescend the next thing that gets played, barring a Cavern of Souls. Second Condescend, play an Island, pass the turn. Wait, didn't I pay 2 Phyrexian mana? Shouldn't I be at 16? Oh, Grove of the Burn Willows. Duh. Okay, opponent Ancient Stirrings. Counter that. They haven't played a second land yet, so they may be trying to dig to get one. Repeal or Karn Great Creator. Repeal to the bottom, Karn to the top. Okay, opponent's got a Cavern. Naming Eldrazi. We untap, draw Karn, play Power Plant, play Talisman, pass the turn. So they play any Eldrazi here, we're not going to be able to counter. Here comes the Thought-Knot. No Thought-Knot? That's interesting. We untap, draw Thirst for Knowledge. I guess we get Coating and shut off Temple. Play Tower. Actually, hang on a minute. Play Karn. We're going to get real tricky here. Tapping this way on purpose. We're going to wish for Coating. Play Coating. Pass the turn. Alright, they got Karn. They could bolt Karn. So the idea was we were going to Liquimetal Coating to shut off Cavern of Souls. That way we could Condescend. We may just end up casting Thirst for Knowledge. Okay, opponent plays Karplusan Forest. 5 mana, they're going to crumble to dust our tower. Well, that's not going to fly here. We need to get another threat ASAP. I would like to keep this Condescend, but I don't think I can. So we untap, draw Remand. Well, Remand is kind of nice. Main phase Thirst. We're going to go ahead and discard Tower. And I think Remand. I think Condescend is actually better. I could discard... I want the Tower, because that prevents my opponent from crumbling to dust the tower, but at the same time, I think we need to keep 2 interactive spells. I'm going to keep Divide by 0 for something uncounterable, and Condescend for something actually counterable. So, pass the turn. That is nice that Divide by 0 is effectively Remand for uncounterable spells. Okay, opponent plays a Wooded Foothills and cracks it. Gets a Stomping Ground. That's a Reality Smasher. So Divide by 0. Get Introduction to Annihilation. We untap. Big threat, please. Urza's Mine is not what I asked for. Play Urza's Mine. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. Plays a Wastes. 6 mana for a Chandra Awakened Inferno. Okay, I want to Condescend just to scry. I understand this can't be countered. I can Introduction to Annihilation to get rid of it. Island to the bottom, Dismember to the bottom. Okay. Chandra enters the battlefield and gets to tick up. Yep, so we start burning. Untap, take a damage. We draw Thirst for Knowledge. So we Thirst. We discard 2 cards here. Discarding Mine and Temple. Meteor Golem. Destroy Chandra. Pass the turn. We're putting up more of a fight than I thought we would. So we know our opponent is holding 1 Reality Smasher, 2 Unknowns. Opponent plays a second Eldrazi Temple. was gonna say, they didn't tap using Caverns, so we could have had the Ceremonious Rejection. That would be pretty funny. I mean, they know what our last card in hand is, so... They go to combat, attack for 5. Problem is, if I want to Introduction to Annihilation, I have to be willing to discard whatever I draw this turn, and my opponent gets a redraw. We untap, continue burning. We draw a Thought-Knot Seer. Well, my opponent's going to get the redraw regardless. This way we can at least double block, so I'm going to Thought-Knot Seer, take a peek at my opponent's hand. It is a second Smasher, thank goodness. Pass the turn. I'm really glad I went with this play, and not the Introduction to Annihilation play. Okay, opponent untaps, top decks, Scavenging Ooze, which is good but not amazing, question mark. They eat Hex Drinker, which is currently the only creature in the grave, I think. Yep, opponent goes to combat, attacks for 5, nope, double block. They're going to kill Thought-Knot Seer. They're not going to kill Thought-Knot Seer? Interesting. That seems like a misclick almost. So we untap, continue burning. We draw Expedition Map. So I can play map. I don't know how you want to do this. There's a chance that my opponent top decks and plays something like Thought-Knot Seer. So we're going to play map. Introduction to Annihilation. Kill Ooze. Opponent gets to draw. Go to combat. Attack for 4. I might map for Tolaria West. And then like transmute for Walking Ballista. Opponent untaps. They draw a card. They top decked an Ancient Stirrings, which is pretty good. They had a third Temple. At least they can't hit Chandra off of Ancient Stirrings. That would be incredible. They play a third Temple, and they play a Thought-Knot Seer. This is exactly why I did not map for Transmute and Transmute immediately, because then they would be able to just take the Walking Ballista from me. So I'm thanking myself for the incredible foresight right now. And I think if I get Walking Ballista, I'll have exactly enough to play at X4 next turn. The only reason I would not is if I top deck something really good. So on my opponent's end step, activate Expedition Map, get Tolaria West, we untap, burn, we draw Island. Okay. If I play Island and then Transmute, that actually saves me 1 point of damage. So Transmute, get Walking Ballista. Unfortunately, I cannot play out a Ballista big enough to stay on board after killing Thought-Knot Seer. I could pass and block with Thought-Knot Seer to protect myself, but I think we need to keep the pressure on right now, and the additional card draw here could matter a lot. Now, I could have saved Ballista and like just attacked with Thought-Knot Seer first. I don't want my opponent to draw another Reality Smasher, though. Which, it would be their third, but it's definitely a card they run 4 of. We draw Treasure Mage. So that's good. We can go get Walking Ballista, or no, we can go get Wurmcoil Engine or Sundering Titan. Next turn, we do have the mana to actually play either one of those. So go to combat, attack for 4. If we get Wurmcoil Engine, that'll keep us alive even through the Chandra emblem damage over time that we're taking right now. Opponent takes it, goes to 9, they untap. The problem is if they draw Eldrazi Obligator. No. They drew it, didn't they? That's the only reason they would tap this way. Oh my, unbelievable. So we're going to 7, taking 1, and then even if I get Wurmcoil Engine, I can't gain life in time. We're not playing a Radiant Fountain. I don't think there's anything in our sideboard that can protect us. Unfreaking believable. It was correct to just wait. They hit us for 7, we go to 2. And I've used my Walking Ballista too, so it's not like I can just get a Walking Ballista and ping them for 5. As I definitely didn't bring in my other one. So we go to 1. I basically have to kill them this turn. Somehow. We draw Karn. Nothing we can wish for gains life immediately. So I could play Karn, and then I'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm 1 damage off lethal! I can hit them for 4, they go to 5, and I can play Ballista X4. And then we die to the Chandra emblem. Ugh, I'm a little salty about this. I can wish for Relic and Cycle. If this Treasure Mage was a Tron land, we would win. Let me double check my math here. 4 mana to play Karn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Unbelievable. Chandra Awakened Inferno emblem. Amazing top deck Obligator. Exactly when it matters. Alright, I'll see you guys in round 3. Alright, for round 3 we'll be on the draw. This hand is not keepable. This hand is, we will keep this one, and I'm going to put back Cyclonic Rift because it's the only card I'm not going to be able to cast for a while. Opponent starts Blackcleave Cliffs, please be Dredge. Thoughtseize. There goes our map. We untap, draw tower number 3, play Tormod's Crypt, pass the turn. Opponent untaps. Alright, we untap, draw Repeal. Players is mine, pass the turn. Come on, Power Plant. Opponent goes to combat, attacks us for 2, no blocks, take 2, go to 18, plays a Raging Ravine, and Bob. Alright, we untap, draw redundant Urza's Mine, play Urza's Mine, pass the turn. The old turn 1 Thoughtseize your only play. Opponent reveals Wooded Foothills off of Bob. I haven't seen Dark Confidant being played in Jund for a while. It's kind of nice to see it again, because the card is really good, but you have to build your Jund deck very differently. And you don't want to play it in a Shadow list, because Shadow you lose too much life as it is. You don't want to be losing uncontrolled life, if that makes sense. But it plays Liliana and upticks. We discard Urza's Tower. Opponent discards Verdant Catacombs. They go to combat, attack us for 5. I could mitigate the damage by Tormod's Crypting my opponent. We would take 1 less. I don't think that matters. I think we lost the instant we got Thoughtseized. So we go down to 13. We untap. We draw Karn, Great Creator. I'm going to go ahead and scoop. I could have Tormod's Crypted myself and then Karn wished for Expedition Map, but my opponent has an active Liliana. So even if I do get down the Wurmcoil Engine, they can just make us sack it and it's minimal value. So versus this opponent, I'm going to drop Tormod's Crypt. I'm going to bring in a couple of Dismembers, and I'm going to cut, I think, 1 Divide by 0. Remand is not that great versus Jund. Divide by 0 is effectively 3 mana Remand. I could actually drop the last one to bring in the 3rd Dismember. That might be reasonable, but we'll run it back. Alright, I would like to play first. This hand is technically playable, like it does stuff, so I'm going to keep it. I don't like it, but I'm going to keep it. Lead on Prismatic Vista, pass the turn. This hand is not Thoughtseize proof, but it is Thoughtseize resistant. Opponent plays Wooded Foothills and passes. I think I'm going to leave Prismatic Vista uncracked to slightly increase my chance of drawing a land. We hit an island, perfect. Play the island, pass the turn. Okay. Opponent cracks Wooded Foothills, gets a Blood Crypt tapped. They untap. They play a forest. Dark Confidant. Yep. We're going to go ahead and fetch up another island and Condescend this. We can't let our opponent start drawing a bunch of extra cards when we don't pressure their life total. Gemstone Caverns to the bottom, Power Plant to the top. Oh, man. I drank an energy drink this morning, but I don't think I got quite enough sleep last night because I did go to bed a little bit late. That and I've been pushing my body pretty hard to lose weight. And it's working fantastic for me. And it's not like I'm doing it in a healthy way. It's just like a little bit rough. I might need more caffeine. Although that might just increase my heart rate rather than wake me up. So opponent's going to Cleansing Wildfire us. I am going to Remand Cleansing Wildfire. The Cleansing Wildfire doesn't matter all that much. So maybe I should have just let that resolve and get another island. But if I play Tower, Tower is scarier than Power Plant. Maybe they'll hit Tower, and then we just have another Tower, and they waste their turn. We do have Dismember for a creature threat, or Condescend for anything else. So opponent fetches up a Stomping Ground tapped. They untap, Cleansing Wildfire the Tower, float mana, get an island. They shock an Overgrown Tomb, Tarmogoyf as a 4/5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright. I'm fine dismembering this, because there's already an instant in the grave. Cool. This does let me keep a hold of my Condescend. And we get Urza's Mine. So as long as Condescend can protect us this turn, we can land an Ugin and then it's probably game over. I think in Jund, Fulminator Mage is going to be better than Cleansing Wildfire on average. Because Cleansing Wildfire seems best versus... Do I Condescend the Thoughtseize? I think I have to. Because I don't want them taking Ugin. Blast Zone to the bottom. I think I would rather find another threat, but Condescend is really good if we draw Or if they don't have another Thoughtseize effect. But I think Fulminator is better than Cleansing Wildfire in a Jund list. Like, unless you're playing Surgical Extraction as a board option or something, but... Play Ugin. The only concern here is Assassin's Trophy. Uptick on my opponent. Pass the turn. Because you're going to cascade into either one of Cleansing Wildfire or Fulminator Mage, and Fulminator Mage actually gets rid of the land. Sure, Cleansing Wildfire cantrips, and that's nice. And you're playing an attrition game plan, so maybe the cantrip is worth it over the permanence of the land destruction. But, Bloodbraid? Lily. I'm going to make them use their last mana and get a Scry here. Because we're going to be ditching this Wastes anyway. Dismember or Cyclonic Rift. I'm putting both of these to the bottom. I either need another threat, but my opponent can just uptick Liliana and then attack Ugin with Raging Ravine. So Dismember isn't actually a good draw here. Opponent pitches Abrupt Decay. We untap, draw Eldrazi Temple, play Eldrazi Temple, shoot Lily, pass the turn. So the only way my opponent is not going to attack with Raging Ravine this turn is if they have a Bloodbraid Elf or another play plus Lightning Bolt. They could have the Kolaghan's Command as well. That would be somewhat reasonable. Okay, so they're going for Raging Ravine because that's their only way to apply damage directly right now. They hit Ugin for 4 and take him to 7. They uptick Lily to 2, ditching Ashiok. We untap, draw Urza's Mine, kill Lily, play Mine, pass the turn. Kind of just want to max out on number of lands in play right now. The problem right now is this Raging Ravine, though. I only brought in 2 of my Dismembers. I don't think we're playing... We are playing Field of Ruin, so I could draw Field of Ruin. Though I think maybe I scried that to the bottom early. I saw it recently, I don't remember where, though. Okay, opponent hits Ugin down to 4. We untap. We draw Repeal, which can only return non-land permanents. I could bounce Ugin and draw a card. If they spend their entire turn activating Raging Ravine, I'm actually going to do that. Because that's hilarious. How often do you repeal your own Ugin and have it be the correct play? So opponent cracks Verdant Catacombs, gets an Overgrown Tomb tapped. They untap. They're thinking. They play Renin 6. So this lets them pick up a land, play it, and then activate Raging Ravine. So they got a little more value. I think my opponent was ready to just activate Raging Ravine at the beginning of this turn and then change their mind. Okay, so they activate Raging Ravine. They go to combat. Attack Ugin. So we repeal him. Draw Wurmcoil Engine. That's pretty good. Raging Ravine gets a counter and then has no attack. We draw map. Play map. Activate map. Go for field. Play field. Activate field. Get an island. Play Ugin. -2 Ugin. Because I don't want my opponent picking Raging Ravine back up immediately. Pass the turn. Now I could have played out Wurmcoil Engine and Ugin in the same turn, I'm fairly certain. But I think this play is stronger, because it stops the 7/7 from attacking us this turn. Ooh, Seb McKinnon Swamps. Opponent has a Dark Confidant. The promo Dark Confidant. We untap. Draw Talisman. Still correct to shoot Bob here, 99% sure. Play Wurmcoil. Play out Talisman. Could have just held this in hand. Make him think I got something. Pass the turn. Opponent terminates Wurmcoil. I think it was better to save that terminate as a fog. Like, terminate the Wurmcoil as we attack, rather than just let it make tokens. It's not likely my opponent's coming back from this anyway, but they Assassin's Trophy Ugin. We get an island. Man, these cards do not look like Magic cards at all. I think they're cool, but we draw Remand. So go to combat. Attack our opponent for 6. They go to 1. And whatever they have that can sweep 2/3 toughness creatures, it's got to be good. I think it actually had to be like Bloodbraid Elf into Lightning Bolt. Okay. And we're going to run it back. Alright. I think I am going to keep this off of the strength of Gemstone Caverns. If I get Inquisitioned, it's going to be pretty funny, because Inquisition won't actually do anything. Exile an island. Opponent leads on Raging Ravine. We untap. Draw Eldrazi Temple. Players is mine. Pass the turn. This is going to be a turn 2 Thought-Knot Seer, unless we get Thoughtseized. Opponent plays Renin 6. They uptick him. They almost forgot. We untap. Draw an island. Play Eldrazi Temple. Play Thought-Knot Seer. The old turn 2 Thought-Knot Seer. What is this, Eldrazi Tron? Take a look at our opponent's hand. They have Kroxa, Klothys, Boil, which we are hilariously playing around. They have no black mana, so they can't even Assassin's Trophy yet. But I still think taking Assassin's Trophy is correct, as that is the card that can kill our Thought-Knot Seer. Opponent untaps. They currently have no plays. Okay, they drew Bloodstained Mire, which will let them play Klothys. And they can start the Wrenn and 6 value train. They play Kroxa and are going to force us to discard. Heck, I'll discard an island, I don't care. So my opponent, because they're holding a swamp, or Bloodstained Mire in addition to all that. We draw Karn, Great Creator. Go to combat. I think we attack our opponent. Play Karn. What do we wish for? Walking Ballista, maybe? I could just uptick, and then wish next turn. That saves me from, like, a Thoughtseize. I'm going to do that. Uptick, no targets. Pass the turn. Also worth noting, if you Gemstone Caverns exiling something, you can then wish for it with Karn. So when it plays Bloodstained Mire, they're holding these 3 cards, 1 unknown. They crack Bloodstained Mire. They play Klothys. Then they pass. We untap. We draw Field of Ruin. So I can wish for a 5-drop or less. Play Field. Wish. Let's get Coating. Play Coating. Go to combat. Hit our opponent for 4. Opponent goes to 8. Stop on my opponent's turn. Shut off Wrenn and 6. Klothys going to exile our island. They can add red or green. They add red. They play Bloodstained Mire. They cast Bloodbraid Elf. Okay. They cascade into Liliana. It's a pretty good cascade. So we can't stop them from edicting our Thought-Knot Seer and drawing a card. Plus they'll also get to attack for 3. Okay. Opponent gets to draw. Opponent cracks Bloodstained Mire, goes to 7. Fetches for a mountain. Goes to combat. Attacks Karn for 3, he goes to 1. Okay. Second Wrenn and 6, so they're going to use that to kill Karn. I'm going to go ahead and field Raging Ravine here. Get an island. I could have gotten a waste if I was worried about a 4-mana Stone Rain. Really, I'd like to draw Urza's Tower here, so I can play Sundering Titan. Cyclonic Rift. Cyclonic Rift is almost good, but I think we have to pass. Now the question is, my opponent's going to uptick Lily, what do we discard? Okay, opponent exiles Thought-Knot Seer, drains us for 2. Wurmcoil Engine is the hardest for them to answer. Sundering Titan does the most damage, but they have a Wrenn and 6 they can just undo it all with. Sundering Titan also necessitates we draw a tower. Wurmcoil Engine we can play next turn if we draw a land of any kind. I think I discard Sundering Titan. I'll feel a bit bad if I do draw tower, but short of running like tower into Ugin top decks, I don't think we're going to be able to win. Well, they discarded Boil. They pick up Raging Ravine. Opponent Kolaghan's Command, hitting Coating and forcing us to discard. Okay, we'll discard Cyclonic Rift. Because while that would be an okay reset, we're going to need this Wurmcoil Engine. Unfortunately, opponent has enough green devotion to actually turn Klothys back on as a creature. We go to 8. Untap. Draw Power Plant. Play Power Plant. Play Wurmcoil. Pass the turn. We are now Hellbent. Opponent exiles Liquimetal Coating. Drains us down to 6. If they have a Terminate or an Assassin's Trophy, I think we die on the spot. Actually, I think we're dead anyway if they just animate Raging Ravine and attack. This lets us prevent more damage unless they have a Lightning Bolt. Oh, we're dead anyway. Even if we block max prevent, if they animate Raging Ravine and attack, we go to 1 and then they just Wrenn and 6 to kill us. Or they play Kroxa and we die anyway.
Take 3, go to 3, gain 3, go back to 6. I wanted to block the Bloodbraid Elf, but we would go to 5. Opponent's going for the Kroxa play for some reason. Us being hellbent, I think they should have just animated Ravine and attacked, because they could have actually just killed us this turn, but opponent wants to go for style points. I think my opponent, even if I could somehow play Ugin next turn, we would still lose. So, we're just dead. Paying us for 1. Yep. I'll see you guys in round 4.
Alright, for round 4, we will be on the play. This hand is alright. It's a turn 3 Karn Great Creator, which could matter. So, start Power Plant, pass the turn. Opponent leads on Bauble, cracks Bauble targeting us, plays Inspiring Vantage into a Soulscar Mage. So they are definitely some kind of blitz, and the white mana reveal tells me they're probably Lumimancer blitz. Play Talisman of Dominance, pass the turn. I guess they could also just be Luris Burn. They may not be playing Lumimancer. They shock Sacred Foundry, second Soulscar Mage. Nope, they're playing Lumimancer. Alright. They play Bauble. Thankfully does not trigger Lumimancer, although it's not attacking this turn even if that were the case. But it goes to combat, hits us for 2. Mutagenic Growth. I don't know why they're trying to do this now. They're missing out on so much damage by doing this. Take 5. We untap, they draw a card. We draw Chalice? I guess maybe that's why. Play a Wastes. Chalice on 1. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps, Crash Throughs. Just to get their prowess triggers, we counter it. Crash Throughs again. I'm actually going to Condescend. We take 1 more damage if we do. Hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah. I'm going to Condescend because I think the Scry here is actually important. And we're casting at X1 because otherwise we would throw it into our own Chalice. I can't just play at X0. There's a map. I can't play the map. So map to the bottom, Karn to the bottom. Alright. Prowess triggers all around. I think I need to draw mine and get Ensnaring Bridge to really have a chance. Okay, another tower. I can wish for a 1-drop. Pithing Needle. Play Urza's tower. Play Treasure Mage. We're dead to any spell, by the way. Get Wurmcoil. Pass the turn. Abbot of Carol Keep. Exiling Lumimancer. So opponent can get in for 1 here if they want. But they will lose a Soulscar Mage if they do. They play Bloodstained Mire. We untap. Draw Blast Zone. So we could kill all of their 1-drops. Play Blast Zone. And I think we gotta go Wurmcoil Engine here. I'm gonna feel really silly if they top deck a Lightning Strike or Skullcrack. Opponent cracks Bloodstained Mire. Sacred Foundry tapped. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps and draws Manamorphose. That's pretty good. If they just Manamorphose chain into, like, lethal, I'm gonna be really upset. Like, if they, like, Manamorphose, Teamer Battle Rage. It's just like... Alright, thank goodness. So, Spatial Contortion, Dismember, and Aether Gust. Like, we need to be able to kill Lumimancer, and it needs to happen on turn 1. So I'm gonna cut these Remands, because they're basically gonna do nothing. I'm gonna cut a divide by 0, and... Oh, I'm bringing in the other Chalice, because I will not be wishing for Chalice. I will need it in the deck. I will probably need this other Walking Ballista as well. I'm going to cut Meteor Golem, Treasure Mage, and Tormod's Crypt. We'll try it like this. Alright, we are on the draw for Game 2. Natural Tron plus Chalice plus Redundant Tower. The only regret is this waste is not an island. It's kind of a concession that we have to make. Actually, maybe the waste shouldn't be in the deck. Maybe the Wastes and the Prismatic Vista should both be islands, because that Prismatic Vista is actually going to unnecessarily tax our life total. And if our opponent's playing Blood Moon, we should be winning with the threats that require us to play islands. Like Alpine Moon, which is the Blitz version of Blood Moon, is going to give us blue mana, but let's see what our opponent plays. Nothing. They go to combat, they attack us for 1, we go to 19. This is probably a light up the stage play. Yep. They hit Abbot of Carol Keep and a Mountain. Play Lumimancer. We untap and draw Sundering Titan. Play mine. Chalice on 1. Pass the turn. Really hoping for an island. I mean, if not, we're playing Thought-Knot Seer next turn, which isn't bad. Opponent plays the Mountain from exile, plays the Abbot from exile, hits Mutagenic Growth, which they can cast for 3 extra damage, even though Mutagenic Growth gets countered. Prowess triggers are OP. They Lightning Bolt us. Chalice has saved us 5 life already, and we're still taking 7. Okay, we untap, draw tower, play Thought-Knot Seer. Hopefully we can strip something useful, like Manamorphose. Pass the turn. Opponent has a Swift Spear and a Lightning Bolt in hand. They untap. If they attack... Wow. Alright, Manamorphose. I believe that's what we in the business refer to as the Thoughtseize Curse. They cast Bolt. Well, right now, we're best off blocking Soulscar Mage. Hopefully they don't have another spell to cast here. They cycle Sunbaked Canyon with their last mana. They play a Mountain. See, if I block here, they have a Mutagenic Growth. That's 1, 2, 3 extra damage on top of 8. That'd be 11. We'd go to 1. And we would still lose Thought-Knot Seer. I think we still have to block here. We just have to hope our opponent has nothing else. Cool. We untap. Spatial Contortion would be a great top deck. So, I think Island. That is neither of those things. Play Tower. Play Sundering Titan. Take a Mountain from them. Pass the turn. Sundering Titan is a massive blocker. We're not attacking, because attacking could easily be suicide. Because all it would take is our opponent to just, like, top deck another Manamorphose, and we would be toast. So I'd really like to draw an island, because then I could bounce this Lumimancer, and they wouldn't be able to replay it. We draw Karn. Okay. Play Tower. Play Karn. Wish. I brought the Walking Ballista in, didn't I? That would have been the best here, but unfortunately we don't have it. Play Wurmcoil. Pass the turn. No attacks, and this should be the game. Now, if they have Land, Shatter Spree, Smashing, Chalice, and Wurmcoil... Boros Charm? Alright. Going to game 3. At least we'll be on the play. No adjustments. I would like to play first. I will keep this hand. We are going to lead on Urza's Mine. Pass the turn. So opponent is going to resolve whatever their 1-drop is, and then we have to decide whether or not we're contorting it immediately. They lead on Bauble. They crack it. Play Bloodstained Mire. Crack Bloodstained Mire. Sacred Foundry untapped. Lumimancer. We are contorting this turn. Opponent draws a card. We get an Engineered Explosives. Play Prismatic Vista. Fetch. Get an island. Contort. Pass the turn. There's a really good chance we die on turn 2 unless we do. Now, if my opponent ideally plays 2 1-drops this turn, we can play Engineered Explosives and blow them both up. There's a 1-drop. There's a 1-drop. Oh! Oh, he's calling him. He's calling the shots. Even when he's 0-3. We draw on Urza's Mine. Play Tower. Engineered Explosives. Blow up the world. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. His Condescend's not looking that great right now. Opponent cycles Sunbaked Canyon. That's good news for us. We untap. No threats from the opponent. Perfect. We draw a Power Plant. Condescend for maximum power. We get bolted. Opponent untaps. They play Abbot of Carol Keep, so we're going to Condescend. Swat that Abbot out of the sky. Maximum condescension. Dismember to the bottom, Thought-Knot Seer to the top. Opponent plays a Wooded Foothills. We untap. Draw Thought-Knot Seer. Players is mine. Play Thought-Knot Seer. Opponent cracks Wooded Foothills in response. And scoops. We did it! We beat the deck we were specifically teched to beat. Nice. Alright, I'll see you guys in round 5. Alright, we'll be on the play for round 5. And I think this hand is okay. I wish this Divide by Zero was a Remand or a Condescend, at least in this opener. So we're going to lead on mine, play Map. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. Plays a Scalding Tarn, cracks Scalding Tarn. Gets Steam Vents, untapped. This is either Storm or Through the Breach or Blitz. It's Blitz. We untap. Draw Chalice, play Island. Lucky top deck, Chalice on 1. Pass the turn. Okay. Opponent plays Manamorphose. Adds red-blue. This is probably a Stormwing entity play. It is. They go Scrying. They hit us for 2. We go down to 18. Alright, we untap. Draw Karn. Play Blast Zone. Pass the turn, leave up Divide by Zero, Thirst, and activate Expedition Map. Opponent untaps. Plays an Arid Mesa. Cracks Arid Mesa. Gets a Mountain. Bolt into a Chalice. Prowess, Prowess. Expressive Iteration. Prowess, Prowess. I think this is a pretty good card advantage spell, because most of the time, if you haven't played a land, this is effectively 2 mana draw 2, which is something that hasn't existed in Modern, basically at all, other than Vision Skynes, which is not a card you want to be playing. And that's 2 mana each player draws 2. So we're going to divide by 0, put Stormwing Entity back into our opponent's hand, get our Introduction to Annihilation, get hit for 3, we go to 15, untap, we draw an Urza's Mine, play Urza's Mine, and I think I'm going to play Karn Great Creator now. And I'm going to wish for... I'd like to get Trinisphere. Ensnaring Bridge might be safer. I could also wish for Wurmcoil, which would be pretty reasonable, because my opponent likely would not be able to answer a Wurmcoil. But that wouldn't come down for a couple of turns. Let's get Wurmcoil. We have a 5 mana exile a creature spell, basically. So if my opponent replays Stormwing Entity, we can take care of it. Okay. Opponent untaps, plays a Bloodstained Mire, cracks Bloodstained Mire, Steam Vents untapped, they go to 13, Serum Visions into the Chalice, Prowess trigger, they hit us for 2, or they hit Karn for 2, excuse me, they play Stormwing Entity, and they scoop? Alright, not expecting the scoop there, but I'm going to bring in Aether Gust, Spatial Contortions, and I think 1 Dismember. Divide by 0 is really good there. I'm going to cut Tormod's Crypt. They do some grave stuff. They have some grave stuff, but I think having the Dismember is going to be more important. That kind of a thing. Remand, not as good versus this opponent, but still somewhat relevant. Actually, I think Divide by 0 is better than Remand. And we're going to try it like this. Alright. We are now at a disadvantage because we are on the draw. Our lands are also not great. Yeah, I think this Prismatic Vista should just be an island. Playing the wastes is fine, but I don't think we need the Prismatic Vista as a tutor for the additional wastes. I think I would rather just have another mana-producing land. Play Prismatic Vista, pass the turn. We have no 1-mana plays, so I'm not cracking it until my opponent's end step. Just in case they do have Light Up the Stage. They lead on Serum Visions, they get a Prowess trigger. They play Spire Bluff, and they play Soulscar Mage. They go to combat, hit us for 2. No blocks, we go to 17. Okay. Fetch up a basic island. We untap and draw a map. Play Power Plant, pass the turn, leave up Condescend, Aether Gust. If I wanted to be proactive, playing Talisman and playing Map there would have been the play, but I've got a feeling I'm going to need to counter something this turn. Manamorphose. That actually might be worth Aether Gusting. I'm going to do that. I would not be surprised they put it right back on top, though. They do. Prowess triggers. They Lightning Bolt us, just getting in for maximum damage. I would really like to draw another untap land. We go to 7, untap, we draw Blast Zone, okay. Play Blast Zone, play Talisman. This does take us off Condescend for 2. Hopefully they don't have another land, and multiple Manamorphoses or something like that. We are looking to hopefully Blast Zone all of their threats away. Opponent leading on Manamorphose. We're probably dead here. I'm not going to Condescend yet. Actually, should I? I'm going to 1. Yeah, alright. Condescend, X1. They can pay for it, but Mine and Tower. As great as both of those are, we're going to put them back on top because we do want mana. Yeah, they get Lightning Bolt. There's game. Alright, run it back. Alright. We'd like to be on the play. This hand is okay. It's not great, but it is okay. So, lead on Urza's Mine, pass the turn. I technically could have led on the island if I wanted the Condescend for just Scry mode. I don't think that's relevant. Opponent attacks for 1. Hits us down to 19. We untap. Draw Aether Gust. Play an island. Pass the turn. Now we have Aether Gust, Repeal, or Condescend. We have to try and make an intelligent decision about which one to use and on what. Opponent plays a Fiery Islet. Sprite Dragon. This necessitates a Condescend, because Sprite Dragon represents a ton of damage. Spatial Contortion, Expedition Map. Map to the bottom, Contortion to the top. Opponent hits us for 1. We go to 18. Untap. Draw Contortion. play an island, and we're going to Contortion immediately. The only way they could save this is if they have a mutagenic growth right now, and that's like 4 damage that's not going at our face. If they did. Opponent untaps. They play Scalding Tarn, crack Scalding Tarn. For a mountain. They bolt our face. Alright, I regret using the Spatial Contortion now, because they have Stormwing Entity, which I can't do anything about. I'd like to draw a land so I can play Thought-Knot next turn. Okay, there's the land. Play Thought-Knot Seer. Let's see if we can't strip something good from our opponent's hand. Lava Dart, Expressive Iteration, Burst Lightning. So they could Burst Lightning, Lava Dart to kill Thought-Knot Seer, and we'd take a ton of damage. I think I'd take Expressive Iteration, because they have so much top deck manipulation with that. Okay, opponent untaps. If we get the last Tron land, we can repeal the Stormwing Entity. They top deck Bolt. That's pretty good. So now they can Bolt Dart, and they don't have to flashback Lava Dart to kill Thought-Knot. Last card in hand is Burst Lightning, +1 unknown they just drew. It's a Spire Bluff. They hit us for 5. We go to 10. Okay. We untap. Draw Talisman. Play Talisman. I think we actually have to Aether Gust a burn spell here. I want to play Treasure Mage, but Treasure Mage doesn't block. And there's a really good chance that we don't... Like, even if we can somehow get down Wurmcoil Engine, it's not enough. So, Aether Gust, Lightning Bolt to save ourselves 3 damage. They probably just put it back on top. They do. So they're drawing Lightning Bolt. They can even cycle Fiery Islet to do it. Okay. So we're going to 2, and we're dead to untap Burst Lightning. Oh, never mind. We're just dead to Lava Dart. Uh-huh. Yeah, so that was my bad. I immediately threw out Spatial Contortion because I wanted to kill the threat they had. Which I think was a reasonable line, but at the same time, it was probably more intelligent to leave it back to try and deal with a Stormwing Entity, because we had Aether Gust, so we could have actually hit the Monastery Swiftspear that way. But that comes from knowing what threats to use your counterspells and stuff on, and I don't play Blue Tron that much. I do play Blue Tron somewhat frequently, but not enough to know intimately what to use when. I do have some notes for this deck, so for the wrap-up here, let me just get this reorganized really fast. Okay, so for the wrap-up here, Meteor Golem actually was somewhat decent. I didn't think it would be, but I'm glad to see that it had some game. I don't actually have that many... I don't have a big complaint with Meteor Golem. I think Prismatic Vista, seriously, should just be an island. I don't think you need the tutor between Wastes and... I'm not going to search for the exact island. Well, actually, okay, yeah. Yeah, Waste should just be an island. You're not going to need... Or Prismatic Vista should just be an island. You're not going to need to Prismatic Vista for your Wastes. And the reason that I say this is it's just kind of unnecessary life loss. You're going to put a land in the grave versus your opposing Tarmogoyfs, versus your opposing Colossuses, versus a lot of other cards where that matters. And it's there because it helps you get the Wastes in the event that you need a Blood Moon. The rest of the cards in your deck are colorless. The rest of the lands, I mean. And yeah, Blood Moon shuts all of those cards off except Wastes. But if you're getting Blood Mooned, I think you just need to resolve the fact that you're either not going to be casting a Thought-Knot Seer, which is the only card that requires you have Wastes, or you need to lean into the fact that you're playing Divide by Zero now. Between Divide by Zero, Cyclonic Rift, and Repeal, you're going to have onboard answers to Blood Moon that only require you to have blue, and Prismatic Vista was one more non-blue source. I really don't think it's necessary. So I think that change alone upgrades the mana base by quite a bit. As we saw a couple of times, 1 life actually does matter in a lot of these games. Versus the Jund player or the red-green player that was red-green Eldrazi. That 1 life, I don't know if I played Prismatic Vista that turn, I can't remember. Played Prismatic Vista that game, I can't remember. But that 1 life absolutely mattered for the tick down on Chandra. So it can matter. And does matter a lot, and playing the island over the Prismatic Vista is basically free. So, I've harped on that enough. The other addition that I want to see to this deck is I would really, really like... I was taking a look in between games, and there is a number of lesson cards from the new set. And I know we're only playing 2 Divide by Zero in the main deck, and I think 2 is the correct number. But I would like to see an Environmental Sciences in the sideboard. This could matter a lot versus a burn deck, because just playing Introduction to Annihilation, it's good. Like, Introduction to Annihilation mattered a few times. the draw was kind of punishing, and sometimes my opponent would draw into a threat that they really, really needed. But Environmental Sciences is not just a lay of the land, because it also gains you 2 life. And I could see that being very important versus aggressive decks. I really don't think we need 3 Dismembers between our Repeals and Divide by Zeros and stuff like that. It mattered versus something like Eldrazi Tron, or red-green Eldrazi. But versus aggressive decks, I don't think you want to be dismembering all that much. We're going to have to use our Spatial Contortions for that. And Divide by Zero is fine versus the aggressive decks. It's not fantastic, but it does interact with the board. And I think just being able to make your land drops to kind of like... That is my problem with a lot of blue Tron lists, is I tend to like not be able to make my land drops or completely flood out. And Environmental Sciences just being, gain 2 life, draw another card, I think it's fine. I think it's absolutely reasonable. Other considerations, the 7 mana Mythic lesson I could see as like a board state in a can kind of, well, we divided by 0 and we don't have any threats. We're kind of hellbent. It's this weird situation. But I only think that's going to be marginally better, and I don't think that's actually worth running in the side. I think Mercurial Transformation's kind of funny because it hits non-land permanents. So if there's a static effect that you needed to get rid of, you could Mercurial Transformation it. I don't think this is actually good because it's a sorcery. It's not an instant. If this effect were an instant, I could see it being more important. I just don't think it's going to be. But I really want to see an Environmental Sciences in the sideboard. Probably over a Dismember. I think 3 Dismembers is slightly too many. I know it's important to draw this effect when you want it, but the life loss versus the aggressive decks is going to be too much. And Blue-Tron has a pretty notoriously bad matchup versus Blitz, which I know this version was teched to play against Blitz, but I have on numerous occasions seen situations where I've been playing Eldrazi Tron or I've been playing Blue-Tron, and I've played a Chalice of the Void on 2, even on the play. And my opponent has resolved a turn 1 Swift Spear, or they'll play a turn 2 Abbot of Carol Keep or a Sprite Dragon, and then turn 3, they will cast enough spells that the prowess triggers are lethal, despite the fact that the spells are not resolving, which is absurd. That is absolutely insane. And I think that Chalice of the Void is one of the best ways we can fight against a Blitz deck. The problem is we can't Simian Spirit Guide it out on turn 1 anymore in Eldrazi Tron, and in this deck we can't play it on turn 1 at all unless we have Gemstone Caverns, which is very, very unlikely. It's possible, and it would be incredibly strong, but it's not going to matter the majority of the time. So I'm kind of hesitant to say, oh, well, we should just like run 3 Chalices in the main, 1 in the side, or something like that, instead of some of our other tech choices if we're expecting a lot of Blitz. I'm not 100% that's the correct choice, but I also am not sure of many other ways we could actually combat this. Like Green Tron, you can at least play Weather the Storm if Blitz becomes like the de facto deck. That's not an option here. Because splashing another color isn't really an option. Green Tron definitely has the edge versus Blitz because you can play things like Thragtusk and gain life immediately. Blue Tron doesn't have really an option like that. Like, our best life gain option is Wurmcoil Engine, and Wurmcoil Engine does not gain us life the turn we play it. You could play something like Trading Post. I love Trading Post Tron decks. I have since the standard 3-month cycle where that was illegal. No, never mind, because you didn't have Tron lands then. What am I thinking about? Trading Post Wurmcoil Engine is one of my favorite interactions in the game. That's what I'm thinking about right now from Standard. But I love Trading Post in Tron decks. It's just generally not good enough. Although it is a way you can gain a lot of life over a couple of turns. I don't think that matters enough. But it can draw you extra cards, and in a deck like this, it could be reasonable. If you didn't have Karn Great Creator, you could play Trading Post Blue Tron, which I think actually is a thing. There are different build considerations for how you would do that, and you would build the sideboard very, very differently. But it is possible, and you could consider doing that if you wanted to play Blue Tron on a budget. Maybe I'll build a budget list for Trading Post Blue Tron. I think that could be fun. Another consideration, because I was thinking about Divide by Zero a little bit more, we could actually play Fractal Summoning. If we were in a state where we had a bunch of mana and no other cards in hand, and we unsummoned a threat or a spell from an opponent, and we had nothing else to do, rather than just get our removal spell or our environmental sciences to thin our deck, we could actually get a Fractal Summoning, and because we have Tron, if we have 2 blue sources, we could make an absolutely enormous Fractal and in the game in a couple of swings, or make a big blocker, and that could matter a lot. I don't know exactly if that's a good idea right now, but it is something to consider if you want to play Divide by Zero as Remands 5 and 6. But one thing I want to enumerate is if there's a lot of blitz in the metagame, you don't want to be playing Remand. Remand, Condescend, Divide by Zero, Thirst for Knowledge, all of these things are the main reasons to play Bluetron, and Bluetron is best in a mid-range format, because if your opponent is casting one big spell a turn and trying to curve out, Remand and Divide by Zero and Condescend are at their most powerful, because they cost the cheapest in the case of Condescend, or they delay your opponent by a full turn and effectively like Time Walk or Time Warp. And we're seeing an unfair metagame forming, so I don't think Bluetron is the way to go. You can try and tech against it, but I don't think... I think you're better off playing a different deck in this metagame if you want to win. And I'm not sure that there's a lot of other things you can do with Bluetron to make it viable in such a metagame. So I kind of jumped around a lot, and I think a lot of the points I made were good, but I think that's all I have to say when it comes to the deck. So if you like this video, please leave a like, drop a comment, subscribe to the channel if you're so inclined, and remember you can follow me on Twitch. Same username over there as you find me on here. I stream Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, though the last few have been earlier. Please, 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 if you haven't yet and you've watched all the way to the end here, please consider subscribing. It'd mean the world to me if you did. We're very, very close to that all-important 1,000 subscriber mark, so I can start generating some ad revenue and recycling that revenue into this Moto account to help cut costs. As playing Moto is very expensive, and I currently make nothing off of the YouTube channel. I do this all on my own time as a hobby. I do get a few donations through Twitch, but that's it. You know, so big thanks to the people who do donate on Twitch. Bone Daddy, Six Sigma, Tarek, Noxon. I'm looking at you guys. Those are just the big donors off the top of my head. So apologies if I forgot anybody. And yeah, I think that's all I've got to say. So Dave, Tarek, I hope this was a satisfactory performance. I'm sorry, I did try really hard. We had a lot of close matches, but overall we went 1-4, which is probably the worst I've done with one of your lists. Your lists are generally high power, and I think this is very close to the best Bluetron list you can build right now. So please do not take what I just said as an offense. I actually think Divide by Zero might deserve a considerative place in Tron, in Bluetron, which my initial thought was it is strong, and I don't know if it's the best option. And after seeing its performance today, I actually do like it. And I think with the environmental sciences upgrade, it will actually be slightly better than I showed it here today. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. Hope to see you in the next one. Bye!